The Ford government is sitting down with the feds today in an attempt to ink a deal on childcare funding. 9 provinces and territories have already signed on to the Trudeau government's $30 billion national childcare plan, paving the way for parents to see their monthly fees cut in half by the end of 2022.
$10 a day childcare. That's a dream come true for so many families in the province. But the Education Minister, Stephen Lecce, has said what the feds are offering isn't enough. To discuss this, we welcome to CP24 tonight Alvin Tejdo, former Vice President of the Ontario Coalition for Better Childcare and a former Liberal candidate, along with Gordon Cleveland, Associate Professor Emeritus of Economics at the University of Toronto. Thank you. And Cathy Taylor, Executive Director of the Ontario Nonprofit Network. Thank you all so much for joining us. I'm going to begin with you, Professor Cleveland. You have gone through the numbers here, and it does not sound like, based on the numbers, what we're hearing from the Education Minister and what's being offered by the feds, it does not sound like $10 a day childcare is possible for us here in the province, is it?
That's not really the right way to approach it, I think. Okay, so the truth of the matter is the current government spends $2.2 billion a year on all of the childcare in Ontario every year. It's being offered $3 billion in addition to that by the federal government going forward from 2025 on. In other words, it ramps up to about $3 billion a year. So they're offering more than the current government spends every year on childcare. Can you do an awful lot with $3 billion additional dollars? Yes, you can. Can you get everything you want? Can everybody have everything? No, but with intelligently designed policy, you can move towards a much more affordable childcare system than we have right now.
Okay, Alvin, I know parents in this province are watching these negotiations ever so closely. Time is of the essence here because the feds, they want to start cutting childcare costs in January. Our Education Minister, Stephen Lecce, though, says not so fast. He wants a fair deal first. What do you make of the Ford government stance?
I think the Ford government and Minister Lecce are playing politics with our kids and with our parents who are struggling to afford childcare every single day. Every day that this government doesn't come up with a deal is $50 per child that parents are spending for childcare. So we're losing that $50 every day because this government is sitting on it. I think right now they're trying to pretend that there's another deal to be had. But the feds are offering the same thing that they've offered every other province and territory and have already come up with deals in 9 provinces and territories. And we've got a provincial government right now who, wanted to cancel full-day kindergarten. They want to download the costs on this, and they're trying to find a way to politically leverage the federal government somehow for more money, and it's not coming. They're going to get what Dr. Cleveland's talking about, up to $3 billion a year. And they're sitting on it right now, and that's hurting parents every single day when they could be saving that money right now.
Cathy Taylor, Executive Director of the Ontario Nonprofit Network. Cathy, something Professor Cleveland has talked about as well is there is going to be an increased demand once we see these reduced childcare costs. And we already know some childcare centres have had to close due to a lack of staffing. How concerned are you about that? How will some of these childcare centres meet what will be an increased demand?
It's a great question, and there's no doubt there is a staffing crisis in nonprofit and public daycares and other daycares. And part of that is because we haven't invested in good quality wages and decent jobs for those workers who are mostly women, often marginalized women, who are taking care of the most important little people in our lives. So it's really important that the daycare agreement that the province and federal government negotiate includes an investment in wages so that those nonprofit and childcare workers get treated well, they have decent work, they have benefits, so that we don't have a staffing crisis. And there's no reason why we can't have a nonprofit and public-driven model and lower fees with the investment that's being offered at the table.
And Professor Cleveland, I want to follow up with you because I know this is something you've studied. Is Ontario prepared, or can we meet this demand in a few years?
Well, I've run the numbers. It's true. And you can, with the existing money that is on the table, not only lower the fee to $10 a day for all of the spaces that are currently there for 0 to 5-year-old children, but you can add 150,000 new spaces and bring them down to $10 a day. Is that enough? I don't know. It's hard to know exactly what the additional demand will be, but we can finance with this money a very large increase in demand. And if we get that far, we can worry about the next step later. I'm sure that the federal government will be willing to put up more money in the future if we really get this thing going in the next several years.
It's interesting to listen to you talk about the numbers, Alvin. I'll bring you into this discussion now. As the feds and the province work out the math here, I know there are a lot of families out there thinking, we just want relief. Sending your child to daycare is incredibly expensive. We know this. And you're a father of 3. What's it been like for your family? And just how challenging is that, sending your child to daycare in Ontario?
It's unbelievably difficult. We know that there's a huge gap in the number of spaces that are available, and then the spaces that are there are often out of reach in terms of cost for many families. And so that makes it really hard. And you end up having people making decisions around who might have to stay home and work versus working, and that's a big challenge. And as we pointed out earlier, I think who ends up brunting this is a lot of it is women, and a lot of it is racialized minorities, people are begging for relief and have been for years. And so when they look to other provinces and they see that other families in Canada are getting more affordable childcare immediately and are starting to build up more of those additional spaces, you wonder what is the motivation behind this provincial government right now, and why won't they do this deal? Are they just looking at the politics? Are they waiting for the next election, just before the next election, to try and make a deal, which is terrible, because then you get people stuck in the middle until then.
Cathy, we heard a lot from the opposition today. We heard from NDP leader Andrew Horwath asking the Ford government that very question that Alvin was talking about. Why won't his government just make this deal? Do these negotiations make you nervous? Ontario is one of the last provinces to sign on to this deal.
Well, frankly, I'm relieved that, that they're at the table, that they are meeting, they are negotiating. I mean, certainly we've been disappointed that they haven't reached a deal so far when we've seen other provinces reach deals. Other provinces that also have political leaders and governments from across the political spectrum. But I'm relieved. We're hopeful that they'll reach a deal as quickly as possible because $10 a day is game changing for families. And with the cost of living increasing, and to get, to really help the economy recover out of the pandemic, we need daycare, we need affordable daycare, and we need it now. And so I hope they have that sense of urgency this week when they're meeting to negotiate.
Cathy, you touched on this. It's something we've talked about a lot throughout the pandemic, and Alvin mentioned it as well, the impact on women. Women have been, and as you noted, racialized women disproportionately impacted throughout the pandemic. I mean, I think all of us know someone. I have a friend, a single mother, who left her job challenged by childcare, not only the cost, but balancing the schedule. What will be the impact on women?
It's been a huge impact on women. The pandemic has negatively affected women in so many ways. Women workers, mothers who've been taking care of kids that have been pulled out of school, for example, low income, sick day, not having paid sick days. There's a variety of reasons why women have been more more impacted by the pandemic. And our sector is a good example of that. In the nonprofit sector in Ontario, there's 1 million workers that work for nonprofits. 80% of our sector is women. And so when those women don't have childcare, when they don't have good wages and salaries and benefits, they can't enter the workforce. And the economy actually needs those women to work to recover. So it's really important that all levels of government invest in women to get back into the workforce.
And that's why we've seen a continued gender wage gap, because it's one of the reasons of the gender wage gap, because women have had to leave the workforce. Thank you so much to our panel tonight. We appreciate it, and we will have you back again to discuss this important topic. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.